Okay, welcome to our Shabbat service. My name's Martin DiMaggio, and I'm from Spinoza Chabura, the Zoom Shul. I'm also from HJ UK, which is Humanistic Judaism UK. And today we have a regular Shabbat service, followed by a talk on Uriel da Costa by Dr. Marcos Bazmandegan. Please read the information whilst we listen to the video. Behold how good and how pleasant it is for people to dwell together. Please sing along on mute. somebody read the English and or the Portuguese?
Love, love life with happiness. Come and come into the community with joy.
Ama, ama a vida com felicidade. Vem, vem para a comunidade com alegria.
Evo en hayim besimcha, simcha, simcha, simcha. Bואו לקהל bien na 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 na. Evo en hayim besimcha, simcha, simcha, simcha. בואו לקהל bien na 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 na. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la.
שלום לבן דודי, יצח בידנו. שלום לבן דודי, יצח בידנו. שלום לך מלך, לקקים בורימו. שלום לבן דודי, שלום לבן דודי.
While we sing with joy, we recognize that there are those present who may be in mourning, remembering those they have lost. And to them we say these words of consolation. Timtzu betochechem nechama umenucha. May you find within you comfort and rest. And could somebody else read the English and same and or the Portuguese if you're able to?
Sing a song for the Sabbath day. It is good to be grateful for life and to sing with joy on this day.
Cantai um cântico para o dia de sábado. É bom ser grato pela vida e cantar com alegria neste dia.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לחיים, ולזמר בשמחה היום, ולזמר בשמחה היום. And can again somebody read the English and the Portuguese?
Listen, Yisrael, we are all one and our purpose is one. Come, let us work together to improve this world.
Escuta, Israel, somos todos um e o nosso propósito é um. Vinde, trabalhemos juntos para melhorar este mundo.
Shema Yisrael, כולנו אחד, וייעודנו אחד. הבה נעבוד לתקן את העולם הזה. We place these words in our hearts and souls, bind them as a sign on our hands, and they will be a reminder between our eyes. We will teach them to our children, and we will talk about them while sitting in our homes, walking on the road, lying down and getting up. And we will write them on the doorposts of our houses and on our gates, and may our days and the days of our children be prolonged for as long as the heavens are above the earth.
Colocamos estas palavras nos nossos corações e nas nossas almas. Ligamo-las como um sinal nas nossas mãos e serão uma lembrança entre os nossos olhos. Ensiná-las-emos aos nossos filhos e falaremos delas sentados nas nossas casas, andando pelo caminho, ao deitar-nos e ao levantar-nos. E escrevê-las-emos nos umbrais das nossas casas e nas nossas portas, e que os nossos dias e os dias dos nossos filhos sejam prolongados enquanto os céus estiverem acima da terra.
We pause for silent reflection. Let us read together. May every person held hostage be returned safely to their families and communities. May those who have been returned find healing, support, and renewed dignity. May all who suffer in Gaza, civilians, hungry, displaced, and in need of care, return to homes that are rebuilt, safe, and nurturing. We affirm our shared hope for a day when Israelis and Palestinians, Jews, Christians, Muslims, and all who live between the river and the sea can dwell securely among their fig trees and grapevines, in Tel Aviv, in Ramallah, in Gaza City, without fear. May we work toward a future without needless death, without terror or despair, without lives cut short. May we commit to safety, justice, self-determination, and a healthy future for every people and every child in this land. May peace come soon, and may we help bring it. Let us say, Amen. And we now turn our minds and hearts towards those who need our love, who are ill, who are lonely, who suffer pain, or who have been wronged. Let us pause as we call out their names.
Marcia Jean, John Harry, Javier Layton,
Robert
Karen,
Astor,
Karen and Susie.
Hugh, Phyllis, and Prahaladan.
Sharon Bakerins.
My friend Stephen Quashie, who's just lost his mother.
My friend Ruby Govardhan, who's just lost his father.
For healing, refuah shlema, with compassion and with feeling, we say refuah shlema. There's a light inside you that is there to guide you, to help you find the strength you need. Refuah shlema. And may you feel a sense of peace. Refuah shlema.
Let us stand as we recall those who are no longer with us. If you are remembering anyone at this point in time, please say their names aloud.
Lyle,
Leon Showett,
John Chember,
My partner's dad, Jeffrey Orty.
Estelle Capras.
Can somebody read their English and then the Portuguese?
May there be a good remembrance and compassion and kindness and love from all the world upon our honourable loved ones who are no longer present. Let us make a place in our hearts to remember their good names, and let us honour them with good deeds. May
May
their
their
memory
memory be a blessing. Amen.
Amen.
Que haja uma boa memória e compaixão e bondade e amor de todo o mundo sobre os nossos entes queridos honrados que já não estão presentes. Façamos um lugar nos nossos corações para recordar os seus bons nomes e honremo-los com boas ações. Que a sua memória seja uma bênção. Amém.
יהי זיכרון טוב וחסד ורחמים ואהבה מכל העולם לכבוד אהובינו שאינם עוד, אבל ננצור בליבנו את שמותיהם הטובים ונוקירם במעשים טובים, זיכרונם לברכה. Amen. Please be seated. Okay, so at this point in time, I will pass to Marcos, and after Marcos's talk, we'll do Kiddush.
Okay, Martin. I want to start with sharing with you a music. I hope that I can do that here. Can I?
Let me just check.
I ask you.
You should be able to.
Okay. So we start with the Portuguese music called Ladino Fado, Fado Ladino. This music, let me see if I share with you the sound. Okay. Now you have the sound here. So this music called Fado Ladino. Fado is a typical Portuguese music that resounds the past of Moors, the past of Jewish heritage, and this fado called Fado Ladino. Ladino is the language of the Sephardic Jews from Portugal and Spain. So I want to share with you with this music because the lyric that I will share with you after, it's all about our Uriel da Costa. So let's hear it.
Sopra uma brisa quente que me leva ao oriente que há em mim, como um tapete que no ar se eleva e que me tira aos pés do chão, memórias do meu coração. Será miragem este meu caminho? Será que um dia vai ter fim? Será que o vento esconde o meu destino detrás da sombra, a solidão? Fado latino, coração. Há uma rosa negra à minha espera entre as delícias do jardim, e num oásis de esperança eterna, um sentimento de jasmim, memórias do meu coração.
Okay, I will share with you the lyrics of this music in English for you to understand the lyrics. So the music speaks about this Orient that lives in me, this inner Orient that people with this Jewish heritage try to find in themselves. So this is the story of Uriel da Costa. Uriel da Costa, I will give you a time to read. I please ask Martin, can you read in English?
Yeah, a warm breeze blows and carries me to the Orient that lives in me, like a carpet rising through the air that lifts my feet from solid ground, memories of my heart. Is this path of mine a mirage? Will it ever come to an end? Does the wind conceal my destiny behind the shadow, solitude, Ladino Fado, heart? There is a black rose waiting for me among the delights of the garden, and in an oasis of eternal hope, a feeling scented with jasmine, memories of my heart.
Thank you very much. So this music speaks about the feelings that many Portuguese Jews feel inside. This kind of memories of art, this kind of black rose waiting there. All this drama was lived by Uriel da Costa. I will share with you a presentation about him that I did here. As you know, I write a book about Uriel da Costa. The name of the book is Uriel da Costa, Exile of Truth. What's the reason for that? Uriel da Costa was a Portuguese Jew that born here in Porto from a new Christian family. And in this time, the Inquisition had a much power here in Portugal. So he followed the Christianity. He studied in Coimbra, University of Coimbra, canon law and theology. And when start to study in Coimbra, he start to, in some way, awakening for his Jewish heritage. And this kind of study of his Jewish heritage lead him to the study of the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible, in Latin because he didn't know Hebrew. And this study makes that he understand that the law of Moses is much near, is closer than the law of Christ, the law of the Christian church, of the natural law, the rational law. And he didn't identify more with the Catholicism of his time, and he wants to change his life and go to Amsterdam to join the Portuguese Jewish community there. He convinced his mother, his brothers, and with a very dangerous travel, he fled Portugal illegally and went to Amsterdam. And when arrived to Amsterdam, he converted to Judaism. I will show you some photos of Porto at the time he lived there. This is the Jewish quarter in Porto. These stairs now called Stairs of Victory, and this church called the Church of Victory, Our Lady of Victory. But in the past, these chairs have the name of Chairs of Isnoga. Isnoga is the Ladino name for synagogue. And people think that before this church, there is a synagogue there. The new Christians, when converted to Christianity, built this church to show to the king that his conversion was real, was authentic. So the name Victory, usually used to speak about the victory the Christians through the Moors, now means the victory of the Christians on the Jews. But many new Christian families continue to live there. One of these people, is the mother of Baruch Spinoza. The mother of Baruch Spinoza born here in Porto in this quarter. And she was a relative of the mother of Uriel da Costa. They are relatives. And they fly in different times to Amsterdam. Is some pictures of the Isnoga and the main road, now called the street of San Miguel, Michael. And there is a plaque, there is in a wall that remembers all the Portuguese Jews that was forced to convert by the order of the king to appraise the will of the Spanish kings. So to marry with the daughter of the Spanish kings, the king of Portugal ruled all the Jews to convert or to exit Portugal. And when he saw that the majority of Portuguese Jews want to flee, he forbidden and obliged all the Jews to convert to Christianity. And this is the picture in the right side, where all the Jews are baptized. In Portuguese, you say batizados em pé. So it's like a quick baptism. And after that, Inquisition was installed in Portugal, and all these new Christians that have some Jewish practice or ritual can be murdered, can be imprisoned because of that. So, in this situation, Uriel da Costa went study in Coimbra. After that, he started to work in a church, like a treasurer of the church, but he don't feel more connection with Christianity. When he started to study the Old Testament, because he studied through a Christian Bible, he started to see that the law of Moses has a kind of rationality, a kind of natural law that it's more logic to him than the Christian law that he received in his time, of the moral of his time. So he went to Amsterdam with his family, and it is his first exile. He knows that if he exits Portugal, he can't return. Because if he returns, he will be murdered by the Inquisition. So it is the first exile. And he arrived to this Amsterdam community and start a journey of conversion into rabbinical Judaism. But few times later, he understands that inside this community, there is many rituals and dogmas that don't fit with what is studied in the Torah. And he starts to figure out that there is an oral Torah made by the rabbis that in some way changes many aspects of the written Torah. And these rabbis, don't admit that and say that all these traditions came from Moses, came from Sinai to legitimate his power and his teachings, their power and their teachings. And Uriel da Costa start to see many things that he called superstitions inside this community. And he start with a great discussion with the rabbis of his time. And when we start to write, the main rabbi of his time is Shaul Levi da Morteira, the same rabbi that will excommunicate Spinoza after. This rabbi is the unique rabbi, is the only rabbi that born in a Jewish context in Venezia. All other members of the community come from New Christian experience. So the main purpose of this rabbi is to normalize the Judaism, to put all these new Christians in a kind of right way, in the derech. But there is a lot of tensions there. Uriel da Costa after went to Hamburgo, another place where many Portuguese Jews in the commercio, in the business, and they start to write a book who criticize the oral Torah, who criticize and compares Torah, the written Torah, with the changes that rabbis made. And it was the first great critic of the rabbinical Judaism, a systematic book that critics with criticism to the rabbinical Judaism. After that, other book appear from Spinoza, the Theological Political Treatise. This is the biggest critic of rabbinical Judaism. But before Spinoza, Uriel da Costa start to write this book with arguments, with comparison. And this book, I will put here, start to compare some things like the use of tefillin that don't appear in the Torah, the way that rabbis order the circumcision, the difference between Brit Milah and the way that the rabbis order the circumcision, I forget now the word, Brit, I forget now, but the word that it's another way, much more I'm trying to remember, but now I don't remember the Hebrew word for that. But okay, it's a different way that the old Hebrews did the circumcision and how the rabbis now demanded. And other aspects like the immortality of the soul, that he saw that in the Torah there is no mention of the afterlife. In the Torah, all the laws are in a human level, in a natural level. There is no place to an afterlife. And he saw that the rabbis, by Greek influence, insert this kind of teachings to rule the people, to have more power of the conscience of the people. So, in this book, he tried to do that. This is the book, Exame das Tradições Farisaicas, the Pharisaic Tradition Exam. And when he started to write this book, he put the book in the typography, to publish, in the publisher. And before the book was published, a member of the synagogue, of the community, pick an exemplar and write a refutation, a public refutation, called the Treatise of Immortality of the Soul. And why he did that? This man is Samuel da Silva, is another Portuguese Jew from Porto, the same city as Uriel. The first name, the Baptist name of Uriel, is Gabriel da Costa. Only in Amsterdam, he received the name Uriel, comes from or, light. And this Samuel da Silva is a doctor and is a kind of theologian in charge in the community of Hamburgo. He did a treatise about repentance, about Maimonides theology. And now we start to write this treatise of the mortality of the soul and why he chose this issue. Because he tried to refuse all the book of Uriel da Costa, but he chose one theme, one issue, the issue of immortality of the soul. Why? Because other issues have no kind of problem with Christians. Christians don't care about circumcision. Christians don't care about tefillin. So Samuel da Silva, in order to have the Christians with him, the Christian authority with him, he said in this book that this man is a danger for not only for our community, but for all society, because he denies the immortality of the soul. And if he denies the immortality of the soul, he denies morality. He denies the social order. So this man is a kind of danger, not only for us Jews, but for you Christians too. Do something. So a kind of inquisition appeared in this community. And he was excommunicated. In the book, it's a long process. In the book, I explain this process. The book was published in English too. You can find the book in Amazon.com or .uk. And after that, he was excommunicated, received a cherem. Usually we call this excommunication, but it's a different thing. And he started to live alone as a Jew, but a Jew that is own Judaism. There is no options, another options. There is no other denominational options. So he lives his own Judaism through the reading of the Torah And in this way of living is too hard for him, because he was forbidden to do business with other Jews. So his family continued loyal to the synagogue, and after he tried to return to the synagogue. He returned 2 times to the synagogue. The first time he tried to return, so you see, because of all this kind of freedom of spirit, he was in exile and in exile and in exile. The first exile from Portugal, the second exile from the community. So if you want to compare him to some image, you can compare someone that is in a journey, in a travel by boat, and he start the travel, he sell everything to travel, but in the middle of the travel, he understand that there is no port to arrive. He was in a no place, because in some way he lives before his time. He anticipates modernity because he defends the freedom of speech, the freedom to be a Jew that think for his own mind. So he tried to liberate, to free the Judaism from the excessive rabbinic power. He tried through his book and through his life save Judaism from the abusive power of the rabbis. And in this situation, he anticipates many secular Jews. This is the reason that in the 19th century, in Europe, many secular Jews start to reappear the Uriel da Costa. He start to reappear Uriel da Costa in order to revival all this kind of secular thinking, secular thought. Do you understand? So in this kind of in this 19th century, Spinoza and Uriel da Costa was revived because of this secular Jewish thinking. Spinoza, for example, was a model from the first Zionist movement for secular Jews. And Uriel da Costa is a reference to the tension that appeared in that time between secular Jews and the rabbinical authorities. So many theaters, many books was written in the 19th century about Uriel da Costa because of that. So he was a kind of model for the secularism in nowadays. And in this time, today, Uriel da Costa continued to be a reference for us, to be a kind of someone who think by his own mind, to defend the free speech, to defend the way to live the Judaism as his own, is a kind of reference for many Sephardic Jews or Sephardic people or Portuguese and other people with this kind of heritage that don't identify more with Christianity and try to come back, return to Judaism, and don't see in the Orthodoxy a place to live, a place to be Jew. And in this situation, humanistic Jews are a kind of answer, are a kind of answer that that Uriel da Costa want to be in their time. You understand? So this is a kind of story, resume story that I want to tell you. And if you want some questions, I answer your questions, if you have some questions.
Thank you, Marcos. I wanted to point out that it's quite interesting because it was here in the UK, our oldest community, as you probably know, is the Spanish and Portuguese community, our oldest Jewish community, which was founded by people who were related to Spinoza and probably da Costa as well. And one thing that was interesting about that is the fact that our reform movement in the UK, which is distinct from the other reform movements, like in America, Canada, and the German reform movement, was founded by a family from Bevis Marks Synagogue, which is the Spanish and Portuguese flagship. That synagogue was founded in 1840 by the Mocatta family, which was a Portuguese descendant family who were also new Christians at the time of going to Amsterdam. One of the things in the documents from the founding of West London Synagogue, which was the first Reform synagogue in the UK, was them saying that Rabbinic Judaism leans too much on the Talmud, and they wanted to kind of revert to a kind of neo-Karaite, in their words, approach to Judaism, which is really interesting because then the liberal movement, maybe 60 years later, the liberal movement was founded also by somebody who was Montefiore, who was an Anglo-Italian member of the Spanish-Portuguese community, and Lily Montagu, who was his niece. They said that Judaism leans too heavily on the Torah, and maybe we should focus more on the prophets. So the prophetic message became kind of the foundation of liberal Judaism, which is closer to the American Reform movement. And what was interesting about that is that the Spanish and Portuguese community itself had less Kabbalistic traditions because of being new Christian. They weren't exposed to that. So as you were talking about his critique of these things, I thought there's a direct intellectual theological link with the modern reform and liberal movements in the UK.
Yeah, and the Sephardic heritage in the beginning of the England Judaism and liberal, it's all about that. And Uriel da Costa is like a kind of earthquake in Amsterdam, that after him 5 treatises about the immortality of the soul was written. So his kind of message is a kind of earthquake in the community, and many Jews is a kind of a not seeing movement, but many Jews start to follow his ideas, and you can direct this through Spinoza. It's a kind of chain through Spinoza, until Spinoza.
I wonder if you want to tell us more about his excommunication, because I learned only the other day that Spinoza's excommunication was never carried out. They declared it, but Spinoza just lived his life de facto excommunicated, but some of the things that were actually involved in an excommunication were quite horrific from a modern perspective.
The excommunication that was written for Spinoza was a kind of is the same text that was written for the first time for Uriel da Costa. So the rabbis of Amsterdam as the rabbi of Venezia as a reference. So he asked for Venezia to write a text with with the Herem text. And this text was written by Leon de Modena. He's a rabbi. It's a very interesting story because he's a Maimonidean rabbi, very rationalistic, against Kabbalah, but he's a gambler too. He lost his two sons. He's a very interesting personage. But he written this text of communication to Uriel da Costa, and years after, the same text was used with some adjusts to Spinoza. It's the same text. But in the situation of Uriel da Costa, he repents, and in 1940, in the 1640, he passed through a ceremony very humiliating for him, and he received the, how do you say this? The
lashes.
The lashes, and after that, he was so depressed that he committed suicide. So if he finished his life with suicide because of this kind of humiliation that is too much for him.
It was a public ritual humiliation, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Spinoza avoided it.
Perhaps Spinoza was a boy in this time. Spinoza is 7 years old, belongs to the same community, is a kind of familiar relationship with Uriel da Costa. So very, very with certain, you can say that Spinoza was in this ceremony with 7 years old, 8 years old.
He witnessed it, yeah.
Yeah.
Some questions?
I don't have a question, but I just want to thank you because this was very enlightening, especially about the various strains of thought between the Torah, the Talmud, why the rabbis did the Talmud, and the power dynamics and all of that. That was extremely enlightening, and then there were more subtleties to it around the edges that Martin also supplied, and that was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I thought that was a brilliant service with brilliant music and really interesting. And thank you for all the work and the research that you put into it.
Thank you very much. And only a different aspect that I want to share with you is that Uriel da Costa sees the Torah as a religious law, because he came from the Christian perspective and he saw the law of Christ as a religious law, and after he saw the Moses law as a religious law. And in the end of his life, he understands that the better law is the natural law. The natural law is the more rational law. And he saw in some way that Moses' law is nearer than natural law, than the rabbinic law, the oral Torah. For example, he said, how the rabbinic said that my mother can't be with me after my excommunication. What is this law that separates the sons and the parents? Do you understand? So he criticized this law. But it's very interesting that after, when Spinoza writes about the law, the Jewish law, he Spinoza didn't see the law as a religious law. He saw that the rabbis transform this national law written by a politician called Moses is a national law and transforms this law in a religious law in some way, in a law for a community that lives in exile. But the law is the constitution of the old Hebrew state. So Spinoza saw the law in the terms of politics, in the terms of national, Jewish, for him is a kind of nationality. And because of that, in the 90th centuries, the first Zionists see in Spinoza a kind of reference, a kind of proto-Zionist because of that and other things that he said. But it's interesting how people see the law.
But it's
Oh,
sorry.
sorry, Phyllis. We have a question from Evan. He's got his hand up.
Yes,
Sorry,
so thank you for the talk. I would like to understand a bit more about what he was actively suggesting, because I understand how he could see like rabbinic Judaism as having a lot to do with preconceptions or prejudice and so on. But then, did he know about the existence, for example, of the Karaites? Was this his position also? Was he like a literalist? How did he treat that so much of the law was predicated on the temple cult, and then the temple didn't exist anymore? And how did he address all these things actively? I understand very well what he was against, but I didn't get so much about his own ideas, what he was in favor of, let's say.
Thank you. Yes, in part, the people from the synagogue call him a Sadducean. And this kind of title, call him a Sadducean, is to be like a Karaite. But he never identified himself as a Karaite because there is no Karaites in Amsterdam. But in fact, there is in the Sephardic world before this, in the Sephardic world in Iberia, many Sephardic Jews are more, in practice, are more Karaites than rabbinics. Not officially, in practice. In practice, they care more about the Torah than the Talmud. They don't study the Talmud, for example, as the Ashkenazi Jews study. For example, if you see Shulchan Aruch is a kind of legal that people follow and finish, point. Don't study. People study the Mishneh Torah of Maimonides, Shulchan Aruch, but don't study consistently the Talmud, for example. In some way. So, but what he defends? He defends the written Torah. The written Torah that each Jew has the right to understand and to judge what can be applied or not for him. Do you understand the difference? So for him, he don't defend the rabbinics as divine. This is the question. He is against this kind of illegitimate way to say that the oral Torah is divine. No, if I to say, okay, I can admit that this is written by you in some circumstance, but say that. Don't say that this is from Moses. Okay, this is the difference. So you don't see a kind of divine authority in that. Okay, this is a question.
Phyllis, do you want to ask your question?
So I mean, there certainly was a lot of supernatural events surrounding Moses as well. And so I guess he's sort of, as we say, pick and choose, pick and choose what he wants to interpret about Moses.
Okay.
And
So
you know,
in his writings, he didn't bold supernatural things. Do you understand? But it's not mean that he was a secular. Not means that, because it's a kind of forcing to call him a secular, because there is no secular in this time. Perhaps Spinoza was the first secular Jew. In fact, Uriel da Costa, it's a little forced to call him a secular Jew. But he was the first to write a big critic to the rabbinical Judaism. But about the supernatural, if you read the last text that he written, we see that he was more kind of natural law and a kind of naturalism. Do you understand? So he understands all this kind of supernatural stuff that you can read in the Torah, that is no many supernatural. If you read the Torah, there is is not a few supernatural material, and you can interpret this in different ways. So he didn't bold this kind of supernaturalism.
well, and also, did he? Okay, so he did not attach any God-given nature to the oral law, but nevertheless, did he appreciate it all? For instance, all the sort of civil law and other, just sort of useful discussions and outcomes of the oral law, the Talmudic law.
Yeah, he never studied the Talmud, so he have no notion about the kind of the positive side of the dialectics of the Talmud.
Yeah, right.
He have no this kind of vision, because he never be engaged in the study of the Talmud. The question for him is not the Talmud in se, it's the power of the rabbinics over Judaism. So a kind of the rabbis take count of Judaism. They rule the Judaism, but Judaism is more than the rabbis. The Judaism is a thing, is a heritage of all, and the rabbis in some way, how do you say, catch old Judaism with them. So what he tried to do is to free Judaism from the excessive, abusive power of the rabbis. This is the main point of them.
Well, that reminds me of like modern Israel in a way, is that, well, I sort of, one perspective I see is that so many, who knows how many, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of secular Israelis have left Israel. They live all around the world. And, the Orthodox Jews, rabbinic Jews, have been, reproducing like rabbits, as we say, and they sort of became, I get, like the majority, or perhaps the majority. And I see that as one of the ways they control Israel now.
Yeah. Yeah, you can. The question is, who belongs? Judaism, who belongs?
Mm-hmm.
Belongs to the people of Israel, belongs a kind of caste, a kind of rabbinic caste, Orthodox rabbinic caste. Do you understand? So who belongs? So this is the way that in the modernity appears other ways to see Judaism, like liberal Reform Jews, Reform movement, and the secular Jew, the Zionism itself, like a national movement that sees Judaism in a different ways, freed from the power of the excessive power of the rabbis.
Can I point out that the rabbis of the Talmud go to great lengths to assert their power theologically? So there's the famous story of the oven of Achnai. I don't know if people are familiar with that, but basically a group of rabbis are arguing over who is correct about whether an oven is kosher. And one of them says, "Oh, if I am correct, let the trees testify." And so the tree kind of jumps hundreds of feet in the air, and they say, "That means I'm correct." And the others say, "No, we do not take our rulings from miracles." Another one says, "If I am correct, let the river testify." So the river flows backwards. And again, the others say, "We do not take our rulings from natural miracles, from the supernatural." And then another one says, "The walls of the Beit Midrash should close in," and they do. And then same story, and then the voice of heaven comes down, the Bat Kol, and says that one is correct. And all of the others say, "Who are you to speak for us? You gave us the Torah. Lo b'shamayim hi." The Torah is not in the heavens; it is with us. And so that's one of the ways that the Chazal, the rabbis of the Talmud, assert their
But the
power.
thing is to know who is this us.
Yeah, the rabbis.
The us is the people of Israel or the rabbis. Yeah,
Well,
this is a
exactly.
question.
Well, exactly. But then there's also the fact that the Talmud says you should go after the majority, which means the majority ruling of the rabbis. And they give a proof text, which is from the Torah. But the Torah says you shall not go out after the majority. So it's
Yes. But Martin, one thing I think that is important to share with everyone is that the spirit of the Talmud, this kind of dialectics and kind of discussion, it's not present in all Orthodox communities nowadays, when you have a kind of dogmatism and a blind obedience to the rabbis.
Sure.
So the spirit of dialectics, the discussion, don't exist anymore. So this kind of spirit don't exist anymore in Amsterdam. In Amsterdam, there is only a kind of dogmatism and blind obedience.
Yeah.
So the Talmud is only a reference, but it's not the spirit of the Talmud that there is there. It's
exactly.
a different thing.
Yeah. Jamie, is Jamie here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, you've read the book, haven't you?
Yes, I have it. Just a second.
Do you want to say something about that? Putting you on the spot, but
right hand. Do you see it? Yeah, no, I have read it. I liked it. I like when it comes to the end, and it talks about the 7 laws of Moses, or sorry, of Noah, and that became really the core as Uriel da Costa saw things, and I kind of like that. I have a question for Zema Yore, probably because he did a lot of work on biblical work, and he says that the 10 commandments weren't initially 10. So I'm wondering, what were they? Which were the original ones? Because to him, the Torah was like a layer cake. They just kept layering and layering and layering things on top. I don't know. Would it end up being similar? Do we get back to the 7 laws of Noah? I don't know if Marcos knows that. My other question is, It's funny, whenever I read books on the history of Reform Judaism, they always tend to start with Moses Mendelssohn. Why don't they start with Uriel da Costa and Baruch Spinoza? Is it because they want to say that Reform Judaism all came out of Ashkenazi Germany, and then there were no Jewish thinkers outside of the Ashkenazi that were thinking along Reform lines? And I would say that Uriel da Costa and Baruch Spinoza were forefathers to the rise of Reform Judaism. And as far as rabbinic control is concerned, a lot of Orthodox rabbis were against emancipation in Europe. And one of the reasons was because they would lose control. They would lose authority over their respective Jewish communities. And you didn't really get freedom, I suppose, until the United States and the New World. But a question, though, for Marcos. I know some of Baruch Spinoza's family went to Curacao. Did any of Uriel da Costa's family go to Curacao? It's a point where the oldest synagogue in the Americas is there. It was Sephardic, although now it's Reconstructionist. And I'm hoping at some point to be able to go from Panama to Curacao specifically to see it. But do you know, Marcos, if any of his family members did go to Curacao?
I have no sure of that. I know that some relatives of Spinoza, Samuel de Cáceres, went to there, and some family, but from Uriel da Costa, I have no sure of that.
Okay.
The sons
Are
of
you
his
are there?
wife, I don't know.
Okay.
I
know they
remember
tried to.
I remember the word that I want to say before the circumcision is before the difference between Brit Milah, the Milah, and the Brit Peria. Peria is the way that rabbinical demands that cut more skin than the Brit Milah. This is the question. Okay, so
that was an important point about Reform Judaism, though, which I mentioned about UK reform. That actually, even though now it's predominantly Ashkenazi, also in Minhag, there are still Sephardi elements to the Minhag, and the origins are also Sephardi. So there was for me, a very clear intellectual link between Da Costa, Spinoza, and the early reform movement in the UK, at least.
but you can say that Uriel da Costa or Spinoza start a reform movement because they allow this kind of revolution. They allow with these works, with the thinking, with this life, their life. They allow this kind of developing of the Judaism. But it's another way. For example, you see two different things. Reform Jews that deny the nationality and see Judaism as a religion only and deny the national part of Judaism, and Zionists that deny the religious part and be only with the national part. Both refer Spinoza as their foundation. Do you understand? So Spinoza, in some way, permits these different approaches. But it's a kind forcing to say that he was reform or he was a Zionist or he was no. It's a forcing to do that. But they allow with this. They permit that they open this possibility to thinking different about Judaism.
I think if they were around today, they would be pleased to visit our community. And they may also attend a Reconstructionist community too.
Yeah.
If there are no more questions, should we move to Kiddush? And then I'm happy to stay online after we stop recording and whoever wants to continue talking. Should we do that? Or do we have any questions? Okay. Could you stop sharing the screen? So also, if people can get their wine or whatever it is you use for Kiddush and your challah or whatever it is you use for the bread. Could somebody read the English and then the Portuguese, please?
And we, humanity, keep the Sabbath, to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations as an everlasting covenant. For 6 days they worked, and on the seventh day they rested and were refreshed. Therefore, let us bless the Sabbath day and sanctify it. Blessed is the light in life, and blessed is the fruit of the vine to life. L'chaim.
E nós, a humanidade, guardamos o sábado para observar o sábado ao longo das gerações, como uma aliança eterna. Durante 6 dias trabalharam e no 7º dia descansaram e foram revigorados. Por isso, abençoemos o dia de sábado e santifiquemo-lo. Bendita é a luz na vida e bendito é o fruto da videira, a vida.
ושומרים בני האדם את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם, כי 6 ימים עשו מלאכה, וביום השביעי שבתו וינפשו. על כן נברך את יום השבת ונקדשהו. ברוך האור בחיים, וברוך פרי הגפן לחיים. And the same for this, please.
If we can eat and drink together, we can love and live together. So let us bless those that bring forth bread from the earth.
Se podemos comer e beber juntos, podemos viver e amar juntos. Por isso, abençoemos aqueles que fazem brotar o pão da terra.
נברך את המוציאים לחם מן הארץ. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. And thank you, Marcos.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. It was brilliant.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.